good morning, good afternoon from Ithaca, where it is snowing right now, with the goal to bring the world to Cornell in a year that we have not been able to travel. The Emerging Markets Institute has organized webinars in collaboration with eCornell. The first one was in February, where we launched the Emerging Markets Institute's report. The second one on Africa, in collaboration with the Johnson African Business Society and Ivy Ochieng, the president. The third one on Latin America, with the Latin American Studies Program at the Einaudi Center and Professor Ken Roberts, the director. Today is the fourth one, and the last one will be on May 20th at 8 a.m. in collaboration with Professor Jin Hua, the director of the Cornell China Center, and will be on the green economy in China. So today, we bring the focus to India. India has had a number of good news. The only country with China that received more foreign direct investment in 2020. The prospects of economic growth for this year, 2021, are very bright, between 8 to 12%, the latest forecast from the IMF. And India wants to continue focus on tech, and also in the big program, Making India, and also services. The idea is to push forward and to make sure that India's sustainable economic growth continues. We have here with us today two business leaders who will be at the forefront of this transformation, which are very committed with India. Again, today we receive not good news from India because of the pandemic. That is, again, the new wave in a very difficult moment. And we wish all our friends, colleagues, in the all Indian citizens that we find, that you all find, and we all find a solution in this next wave that we are experiencing in India. We find a solution soon. So then I'll pass the word to the moderator of today's webinar, Vineet Kicha. Vineet, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Casanova. A very good afternoon and good evening to all the attendees. Welcome to the webinar. By way of introduction, I am Vineet Kicha, a second-year MBA student and an EMI fellow at the Cornell Johnson Graduate School of Management, and I would be moderating today's panel discussion. I would like to get us started by briefly introducing our speakers for today's panel, Mr. Saurabh Agrawal, Mrs. Shubhna Kamineni, and Professor Soumitra Datta. Mr. Saurabh Agrawal currently serves as the Group Chief Financial Officer of Tata Sons. Previously, he was Head of Strategy at the Aditya Birla Group and Head of Investment Banking in India for Bank of America Merrill Lynch. He has recently been adjudged as CFO of the Year by the Financial Express Group. Congratulations and welcome to the webinar, Mr. Agrawal. Mrs. Kamineni is the Executive Vice Chairperson of Apollo Hospitals and a member of the founding family. She was the first woman president of the Confederation of Indian Industry. She has received numerous awards for entrepreneurship and leadership. Welcome to the webinar, Mrs. Kamineni.
Thank you.
Professor Soumitra Datta is the founder and co-editor of the Global Innovation Index, published by WIPO, Cornell, and INSEAD. He currently serves as a professor of management at the SC Johnson College of Business. Welcome to the webinar, Professor Datta. At this point, I would like to begin the panel discussion. Given the context of digitalization and future of technology in India, I would like to first focus on the healthcare space in India, which is quickly growing and has gained huge prominence in recent times due to the pandemic shocks. So, Mrs. Kamineni, India's Apollo Hospitals has built a healthcare ecosystem with more than 10,000 physicians and 30,000 other healthcare professionals. 6 months after launching the healthcare platform Apollo 24/7, 4 million people have enrolled. What do you think are the key reasons for the success of Apollo 24/7 and the Kavach project, integrating 2,500 hospital beds, 2,000 hotel beds, and home care?
Hey, thank you, Vineet. And I really do think that everything lies in the fact that what we had built in the past would have collapsed during the first wave. We had 7,000 doctors out of work. We had patients who couldn't come into the hospital in the lockdown. And it was really fortunate that we had built this platform. And I think 5 points. That one is that this pandemic and this year really accelerated digital health by 10 years. It has made it ubiquitous. Everybody, whether you're old or young, and if you have a smartphone, you will know that that you can get a doctor consult without having to go. So I think this telepresence around the world, Ping An has gone up by 5 times. So has Teledoc, and all over the world, same in India. And I think this has really saved us. And this is something that is here to stay, because once they've seen the convenience of that, we've seen that the repeats have happened, even when the situation got a little better. So that was one. The second thing is that this is the time of the Internet of Everything, truly, in healthcare. So the devices that are looking at your SpO2, the cardiac risk score that we have that can get patients into the hospital faster, ahead of time. There's so many things that are, whether it's connected devices within the hospital or on our app. So I think that journey has, people think that just having 50 million connected devices of different kinds is it. I think it's really the beginning of that journey. And India will be at the forefront because we're early adopters. We skipped the computer. We went straight into the smartphone, and that's where everything is happening. The next thing is that AI, big cloud, and data. So, in Apollo, just to give you we were able to we did our clinical decision support system. We took 1.5 million patient records. We were able to look at almost 4.5 million lines of code. And from that, we were able to get almost 600 disease patterns. And this was the version 1. So the power of data is that tomorrow, when you have a chat with any one of our devices, with the app, it's really got that much smartness in it, the intelligence of all that, which will be given to the doctor ahead of time. And I think India's a little behind. China's way ahead. And I think the US is really, what Google is doing is amazing, and other companies. But this is the way the future will move. It will not get rid of doctors, but it'll make doctors smarter, which brings me to robotic technology. And people asked me for many years, when Apollo has robotic surgeons, they said, well, why do you need this? So I said, this particular technology makes a mediocre doctor into the finest heart surgeon or the finest neurologist. And I think that's what this will do. Everything of this will sit on the back and become better with 5G. With the emergence of 5G, the latency and having this available to you will make geography history. We can do surgeries anywhere. We can give teleconsults anywhere. So I think that this has been and all I can tell you is that it's really worked. Today, we have 10 million people now on the platform. And in this last panic mode wave, what's happened is every day we're flooded. We're doing, this is a new system. We've ramped up almost 5x in the last 20 days alone in terms of medicine delivery, in terms of, because you can't get to a store in these mini lockdowns. You need a doctor. You want a hospital bed. And I think it's not just us, but there are many, and I love the fact that there are thousands of startups. So India is a very vibrant startup ecosystem. Let's not forget that. And I do think that with all their help, this is going to emerge as one of the most exciting places for digital health in the future.
Those are some great words, Mrs. Kamirani. That's a very thoughtful and detailed answer to my question. Thank you. At this juncture, I would like to invite Arushi Pathak, who is a first-year MBA student and co-president of the South Asian Business Club at the Johnson School. Arushi, please go ahead.
Thanks, Vineet. Mrs. Kamineni, as a woman leader at Johnson, who is incredibly interested in the digital transformation that is underway in India, I was curious to know your thoughts on how digital innovation has made an impact on the healthcare industry.
I'm glad you didn't ask whether it's bridged the diversity divide, because we've not done great on that, but we will eventually, because I think that technology knows no real sex. So I think but what has it done on innovation? Like I told you, the CDSS or the cardiac risk score that we did with Microsoft, we have a risk score for Asians that can predict heart attacks a week before they actually happen. And Microsoft is giving us a royalty for this all over the world. And this has come out of India, so we can kind of be proud of that. And I think there'll be many, many exciting innovations that take place in this. So, and it's not just in terms of drug development. If you look at it, the fact that we got a vaccine so fast that got made in India, 100% it was their ability to leverage technology from around the world and from within India. So to me, this alliance and this sharing of knowledge will create more and more of these huge innovations that will take place. And I think that at some time we will also have to step back and start putting the rules and guardrails around them, because it can, you can just get so excited by what can happen. The perfect human or no disease, wipe out a certain, gene that would this thing, dementia or any of these. So some are superb. Some will help longevity. Some will bring down the cost of healthcare. And I think these guardrails, innovation around a purpose. So this is what you're going to start hearing more of: innovation around humanity, innovation around a purpose, rather than materially what you can get out of it. And the pandemic has really brought that front and center.
Thank you, Mrs. Kamineni, for great thoughts around how digitalization would marry healthcare space in India. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. At this point, I would like to take the perspective of our discussions broader, and would now like to turn our attention to how the industry landscape would evolve in the context of digitalization in India on a broader scale. So my next question would be to Mr. Agrawal. Mr. Agrawal, as an industry leader managing one of the largest and oldest business conglomerates in India, how do you think about an overarching digitalization framework and transformation encompassing our diverse business verticals?
Thank you, Vineet. Good morning, everyone. I think as a country, we have come a long way since 1991 liberalization. We were a closed economy before that, with a Hindu rate of growth, which was more like 3 to 4%. Since then, we have opened up the economy, and we have come a long way. And I think the preface to this overall talk has been the commercialization of Indian offshore story, which led to one of the growth pillars in the decade 2000 to 2010, apart from the telecom revolution. I personally see today, where we are sitting today, we are actually at an inflection point where digitization is actually going to lead the growth for India in the future. And what do I mean by that? I think we are seeing digitization getting accelerated almost everywhere in the world, in every nook and corner. But what I find as far as India is concerned, we are still a middle income developing economy. We have 1.3, 1.4 billion people, and we have a very large geographical area. What we find is we have paucity of almost everything as far as the country is concerned, whether it's education, it's healthcare, or it is any other consumer service. So we struggle for resources, and what I find very interesting is over the last 4 or 5 years, we have been in the midst of creating a digital framework in the country. And that is very, very interesting. To give you some perspective, as a country, we have taken a very different route to digitization. And that is on the back of very cheap telecom infrastructure, penetration of digital devices, and very low cost telecom bandwidth in the country. As a result of that, I think what the government is focused on is democratization of digital services in the country. And on that, we built in India Stack, which has been basically supported by Government of India. I mean, to give you example, this stack is about 3 particular perspectives. One is the identity layer for every Indian. So today we have a digitized identity available to almost more than 1 billion people within the country. What that helps is in doing eKYC, e-signatures, and whatnot. On top of that, we have built in a payment layer. And this payment layer is actually has democratized practically the payments in the country. To just provide a perspective, in December, we had almost 2 billion transactions happening on this platform. And there's absolutely zero fee as far as transactions are concerned. And on top of that, what we are building is the data layer, where unlike everywhere else, where data is being used to push e-commerce and social networks and services, what we have in India is data is practically owned by consumers. And they are data aggregators, which effectively, based on permissions given by consumers, are going to share data with different providers. So that's a true democratization of data. On top of that, what I find is we are building huge number of, as Shobna mentioned, basically a huge number of startups, internet revolution overall in the country. And for a group like ours, I think what I see as an opportunity is actually to service 1.3, 1.4 billion people as a group. We have always focused on helping build the nation, to really augment the effort of the government within this direction. And our chairman had written a very interesting book called Digital India, where our view is, like, just to basically augment the example on healthcare itself. I mean, we cannot produce enough doctors to take care of the needs of 1.3, 1.4 billion people. Same is the case with teachers, and same is the case for every other service. But what we can do is, using digitization as an initiative, we can actually multiply a doctor by 10 times by using low-cost resources and augmenting overall facilities. We as a group did a very interesting experiment in Karnataka, in a very small district with 1.6 million people, where we digitized each one of them, getting almost 90% people on that network. And today we are servicing the primary and secondary healthcare with a very small cost. So India is all about finding low-cost solutions overall. And we as a group are really focused on actually riding this wave of digitization to lay down the foundation for the next level of growth in the country. I think with this digital infrastructure, I have absolutely full confidence that we are going back to the growth rates of 7-8% plus for a long time to come. And I think we are very well poised.
Mr. Agrawal, those are some great avenues about India's growth aspects from the frontier of digitalization. And thank you so much for that great answer. Now, I believe after hearing to two industry leaders, it would be great to hear an academician's perspective on the growth of digitalization and the future of tech in India. So, Professor Datta, as an indication that India has improved its overall performance, the country is doing better in different world rankings, such as World Bank's Doing Business, where India jumped 14 places to number 63. How is India doing in the Global Innovation Index?
Thank you very much, Vineet, for your question. I would like to, of course, say how honored and privileged I feel to be sharing this panel with Shobna and Saurabh. And I think they are great leaders themselves who are driving change in the country and making India progress forward. So thank you, both of you and your colleague leaders in the country, very much. I think the theme of digitization came up, and I'll answer your question about Global Innovation Index in a second, Vineet, in more detail. But let me just reflect a little bit in terms of the digitization theme that came up very strongly in the comments of Shobna and Saurabh. And I think it's worthwhile to mention that a lot of people in the audience may not fully realize that India is actually on a path which is very innovative on the digital economy path. The traditional path which has been followed, let's say, in the US and China has been large companies, whether it's Amazon, Facebook, Alibaba, Tencent, and so on, forming pretty much walled gardens and sort of ecosystems. So if you're in that ecosystem, basically you have access to a lot of services, a lot of data, and a very rich digital environment. And a lot of the ecosystems don't really talk to each other very well. India doesn't have Alibaba or doesn't have Amazon till now. It's possible in the future, maybe there'll be Reliance, Jio, maybe there'll be Apollo, there'll be other kind of digital leaders emerging, or Tata Group perhaps itself. But I think today what India is doing is a very much of a bottom-up approach, which is much more democratic in the digital economy. Saurabh already mentioned the biometric database that exists called Aadhaar for all Indian citizens today, about roughly 1.3 billion people. Then on top of that, the Indian government has built a very unique stack of APIs called the India Stack. And I encourage you, if you haven't actually, learned much about or read about much the India Stack, go and Google it and find information about it, because that's a very unique kind of environment that allows every single organization, every single bank, every single healthcare organization to be able to tap into the central database through these free APIs and to be able to conduct and sort of digitize their business much more easily. So this kind of a democratic, much more of a Lego brick bottom-up approach is, I think, a big innovation of the Indian economy. Many other countries are looking at it very carefully because obviously they are torn between choosing, a US approach versus a Chinese approach in the digital economy, and India presents at least, at one level, a third approach. So I just wanted to make that comment. The question you asked me about the Global Innovation Index is very important, because the Global Innovation Index is an index for national innovation benchmarking, evaluating how successful is a company or the country in innovation. I created the index in 2007. It was adopted by the United Nations. Today it's published by WIPO, and it has become the global benchmark and reference point for innovation policy analysis in many countries around the world. Now, in the Innovation Index, we look at multiple factors. So I think it's very important to explain what the philosophy behind the index is, because if you go back about 15 years, the way people thought about innovation was measured mainly in patents, publications, citations, PhDs, or venture capital. Now, all those metrics are still very important for innovation, but what we have realized, and this was, I guess, the innovation, the Global Innovation Index model, was to say that, well, look, there are other aspects also important for innovation. It's not only that PhDs can innovate. A farmer can also innovate. You don't need a patent to innovate. You can actually have innovative applications with mobile applications and mobile phones. You don't need VC money to innovate. You can also innovate with microfinance. The number of other aspects out here, but essentially innovation, the Global Innovation Index, is a much more broad-based view of innovation in which every person, every company can innovate using a variety of different approaches. So using that kind of philosophy, India has been doing progressively very well year by year. In the most recent index, it was ranked number 48 in the top 50 in the country, in the world. And I would say that India's potential is certainly higher than the rank 48. Now, I think India is doing very well in some metrics. For example, in the ICT exports, it's ranked number 1st in the world. It also stands out for its rate of productivity growth, for which it is ranked 9th globally. And also in terms of global brands, in fact, it is doing quite well. It is ranked number 31st in the global brand value. There are many other indicators on which India also needs to improve, certainly. Infrastructure is clearly an area where all of us realize that India needs improvement. But my hope is that as this phase of digitalization really picks up and gathers steam in the country, a lot of very innovative applications will be seen, and that will really both not just move India up on an index of some kind, but also actually make a material change in the lives of people in the country. Because fundamentally, what innovation and what a country leadership is concerned about is about improving lives of people, having a positive impact on the lives of people. And the pandemic certainly has made that very much center stage for all policy leaders right now. If I look at all the various dimensions of the Sustainable Development Goals, as Saurabh mentioned, India has plenty of rooms for improvement on all of them. But I do believe digitalization will help us get there in healthcare, education, many other domains. Green technology, I think, is a very important area too. President Biden has certainly made climate a very important center part of the agenda of the new government in the US, and it's a very welcome change. And I think what we'll see is that the US leadership in this area will help drive a concerted force once again across the world in pushing for more green-friendly energies, green-friendly policies in different sectors of the economy. I do believe that India will be a frontier for a lot of these green technologies because there's so many domains of application. India has shown its ability to also come up with very innovative low-cost solutions. And low cost is very important because a large part of the world, is emerging, is developing, and essentially needs those low-cost solutions. So I do see India playing a role combining, in some sense, the digital strengths, which really it has serious strengths in that area, together with the global problems that we need to face in the SDG area, in the climate area, and the combination of that really gives India a very powerful, I think, role in the world to be able to innovate and have a positive impact on the lives of not just its own citizens, but also citizens of the world. Over to you, back to you, Vineet.
Thank you, Professor Datta. It provides me a great perspective on how these things will move together, which provides me a great segue to my next question to Mr. Agarwal. Mr. Agarwal, most of us know that Tata Group has diverse businesses with a presence across multiple consumers-facing businesses. How do you plan to leverage digital platforms to extend their reach?
We need to exist in the future. You have to be digital. I don't think there is an alternative to that. And I must say, within the group itself, I think one of our companies, TCS, is providing digital solutions to global companies around the world. And over the last 4 years, the biggest initiative we have undergoing with the group is to not only have a consumer-facing businesses, because since we are 150 years old, we do everything from salt to software, which is what we are referred to commonly within the Indian markets. But just not only the consumer businesses, our old industrial businesses are becoming consumer-facing too. So the whole focus is on digitizing every aspect of the business that we do. Internally within the organization, supply chains, customer facing, bridging the gap, and actually connecting with the consumers to know what do they want. And whether it's Tata Steel or it's Tata Power, these are old infrastructure companies. They actually are focusing more, like Dr. Datta mentioned, in terms of providing green solutions through Tata Power renewable businesses, or through Tata Steel, which leading directly to consumers to provide building solutions. And then we have several other consumer-facing businesses across the group, where from hotels to airlines to tea, coffee, and the list goes on and on. And what we are trying to do is to actually trying to provide platforms to the consumers across industries. And our whole focus is to integrate multiple businesses that we have in the group to provide a common front end as much as possible to the consumers within the markets. And I see tremendous potential for that. And we are very excited about the opportunity going forward. Back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Agarwal. That's a great answer to my question. In the interest of time, I would now like to focus our attention back on India's growth journey, and would be great to listen to Professor Datta's thoughts here. Professor Datta, International Monetary Fund's or IMF's latest forecasts for India tell that the growth would be a staggering 12.5% in 2021. What do you think would be the role of technology in this huge performance going ahead for India?
Yeah, I think clearly the India's growth rate is going to be high and should be, in fact, even higher. My own comment really is out here that the greater the digitalization of the economy, the higher the growth rate that will achieve in the country. And why do I say this? First of all, I do some research also on the network economy. So there's another index that I produced that is called the Network Readiness Index. It was produced for the World Economic Forum. It's a technology index on technology policy, technology competitiveness. And if we look at the analysis that we've done in that study, what we find is that digital intensity in the economy is a very key driver of growth of the economy. So that's an overall result that we find. And as the digital intensity of India's economy increases, I think that'll certainly drive India's growth forward. India's digital sort of characteristics have been mentioned a few times, but I just thought it might be useful for the audience to hear some statistics out here. I was meeting with the Secretary for Information Technology in India in December, actually January of this year, and I'll give you some statistics that he shared with me. So India today has the second highest telephone subscriptions in the world, 1.1 billion in October 2020. The mobile data consumption per mobile broadband subscription has grown 200 times to 12.15 gigabyte in June 2020. It's one of the highest in the world. The cost per gigabyte has been reduced from about $3 in 2016 to less than 10 cents in June 2020. Again, is the lowest data cost in the world. Internet subscriptions grew from 62 million in 2014 to 776 million in September 2020. And the number probably is closer to around 900 million, 850 million right now. And so if you look at the various statistics, I think what has happened in India is this whole digital penetration has happened a little bit later than China, but it really has picked up in the last 7-8 years. And I think, even though TCS and other companies in that sector have done great work in providing software, solutions, software development companies, software development services, I think the actual penetration of digital access and mobile devices in the country really has happened in the last 7-8 years. So if the penetration has been that recent, the impact of that will happen in the next few years, because now is the phase when organizations are digitizing. You look at, for example, the rate of growth in mobile payments, as mentioned by Saurabh, the numbers are going exponentially up, and that's happened the last 2 years. It's not a question of last 10 years, last 2 years. And so you'll find a number of areas where there'll be tremendous rapid growth in digital services, digital products, other kind of innovations in the next few years. So what I expect is that the next few years is going to be very rapid growth, because the foundations are very strong. As Saurabh said, very important, it's been democratized. It's not under the control of any one company. Yes, there are large companies that control specific segments. I agree that that's an issue that has to be resolved too. But by and large, the digitalization has been much more democratized. And so I see a lot of digital intensity increasing in the economy. I see the result of that, many new opportunities. I see many new, and you see that today. And I think this year itself, India created like 30 unicorns. So this is something which is amazing. Second highest number of unicorns being created in any country in the world in the last 12 months. And I think this is a trend that is going to continue because the opportunities are huge. There's a lot of talent in the country. We need to invest more in the talent, but still a lot of talent exists in the country. And you put the two together, talent, opportunity, and that sort of innovative context, you will see a lot of growth. So I'm personally very optimistic about high growth for the country in the coming few years.
At this point, I would like to open the floor to questions from our audience, and Gaurav Trivedi would be taking over the questions from audience and passing it over to our speakers for their insights and great answers. Gaurav, up to you.
Thank you, Vineet. Thank you, Professor Datta. Thank you, Mr. Agarwal, and thank you, Ms. Kamineni. I really appreciate your insights and a very engaged panel session. Loads of questions coming in. Just to kick things off, in the commemorative feelings of celebrating Earth Day today, wanted to kind of get some more insights from you, Mr. Agarwal, specifically like what Tata company as a conglomerate is doing in terms of enhancing its footprint in elaborating on the green space in India and globally as well.
Gaurav, I think what we are doing, we as a group have a huge footprint from a sustainability perspective. Having steel businesses, power and motor businesses, we are very conscious of sustainability. And towards that effort, we are making a lot of investments to ensure that over a period of time, we get to best in class as far as sustainability is concerned. In terms of green power, I think Tata Power as a company is focusing hugely on solar solutions, rooftop solutions, in addition to setting up solar farms across the country. I mean, to provide some statistics and numbers, we probably would be installing almost 3 to 4 gigawatt of renewable power at homes as well as through solar farms every year for next several years. So that is the size and scale of it. And in addition to that, I think Tata Power by itself is considered to be an old thermal company. But today we have huge presence as far as distribution is concerned. Distribution in India, distribution of electricity is getting privatized. So today we own the distribution in large cities like Mumbai and Delhi and state like Odisha, which is approximately 20 million people. So idea is to see how we can digitize some of those use cases and provide green power as an alternative to consumers as well. On top of that, I think electric ecosystem for vehicles is a big foray that we are making as a group. So we have several ingredients across the group. We have a chemical company called Tata Chemical, which can participate in batteries and the chemistry side of the electric mobility business. We have Tata Motors, which is the market leader as far as commercial vehicles is concerned, and has a presence in personal passenger vehicles as well. So there's a huge opportunity for us to be moving into electric vehicles, which we already are the market leaders as far as India is concerned. And through Tata Power, we can provide electric charging stations across the country. Today, I think we have a presence across most of the country, but we are looking at increasing it significantly. And top of that, we have a financial services business which can provide financing solutions to this whole area of activity. So objective, like Dr. Datta mentioned, is how do you provide an affordable, cheap solution which can be consumed by the masses within the Indian construct. I think the India is all about volumes, and providing services and products at the right cost is extremely important within the Indian construct.
Thank you for your excellent comments. Really appreciate it. Building on this, Professor Datta, you mentioned that green is of course taking potent shape, especially under the onus of multilateral institutions as well. It'll be great to get your perspective on from the academic side and how digitization is to a certain degree accelerating this phenomena.
Yeah, so if you think about how economies have grown and developed, clearly there has been a tremendous path shown by China in which they have successfully taken a large part of the employment in agriculture and moved them into the factory. So farm to factory has been a very successful path, and China has grown the factory base significantly. China has a very large manufacturing base, it's the factory of the world in some sense. And that has been a great way for helping create the foundations for moving people in the factory to the service sectors, and that's happening as we speak, as technology in fact moves people into the service sector. Now, if you think about India's challenge, India has enormous large part of the population, upward of 500 million, involved in the agriculture sector. And if you look at the trends in manufacturing, yes, the government is trying to have a Make in India initiative and trying to encourage local sourcing. And yes, with the global reconfiguration of supply chain, some manufacturing will move from China to India. All that will happen. But the reality is, you look at manufacturing as a whole, because of increasing automation, the employment in manufacturing is going down. Okay, it's happening even in China. In China, the number of people employed in manufacturing is going down because of automation. That's automating more and more. So if you want to, in fact, increase efficiency, manufacturing is going to get more and more automated. So in effect, manufacturing will produce some kind of growth in jobs for India, but will nowhere meet the demand in terms of trying to successfully move people from the farm to the factory successfully. It'll happen. It's going to happen, and that the trend is going to continue. So clearly what India needs to be able to do is invest more in agriculture. So you need to have more investment in digital agriculture to be able to make not just green, but more smart agricultural producers possible, so that you're able to get the productivity in the farms, so you're able to actually improve the lives of people in the farms. You need to invest much more in education. Education, why? Because nowadays for participating in the service sector, and technology has made it easier to participate in the service sector, technology access is a very important part. And for that, you need some skills. You don't need a lot of skills, but you need some skills. So you can take, for example, a farmer, and you can make the person into a driver of a, like a Lyft-like system like Ola in India. If that person can drive a small, vehicle, a driver can also, for example, handle a mobile app on a mobile phone. So I think, with some kind of skills upgrading, you can in fact take a lot of people from the farming sector and move them into smart, lower skill jobs in the service sector. So in some sense, they will not become a data scientist tomorrow or an AI scientist, but they will be able to drive a smart electric vehicle cab, for example. So the challenge really is, how do you push the green frontier? Because whatever you do in terms of these kind of new things will have to be green, will have to be digitized. And that's where I think India should focus, and India should in fact also do a lot of emphasis on skills upgrading. Skills is a very important thing. We have great human talent, but unfortunately, a lot of the human talent is not under-leveraged. It's not utilized, as best as it could be.
Thank you. Thank you for a very, very comprehensive answer. Really, really insightful indeed. Before we move on, there are plenty of questions coming from the audience as well. Arushi Pathak has a pertinent question regarding this topic to both Mr. Agarwal and Professor Datta. Arushi?
Thank you. So I think in just, resonating in terms of what Professor Datta was just talking about regarding, how to make the skill set viable enough considering the huge amount of manpower that there exists. I would just wanted to, know your thoughts about how do you think we can perhaps make this digital transformation a lot more inclusive? Because I understand that the penetration has been such that there are a lot of people that have more access towards these digital tools, but how do we make it more inclusive? How do we try and incorporate a larger audience just so that there's not only popularity, but also a certain amount of ease in terms of moving towards that digital innovation and transformation?
The question is for me?
I think you're in a good position to answer it, Saurabh. You already started answering earlier, so you should.
Sure, no problem at all. Look, to give you a size and perspective, offshore services in India pretty much employ around 6 million people directly. And the ratio of indirect to direct employment typically is somewhere in the ratio in the region of 3:1. So we have a significant employment which was provided by the outsourcing industry as far as India is concerned. And that was one of the key drivers for economic growth. And the biggest employment generator sectors within the country are tourism and construction. And that is true for almost anywhere else, everywhere in the world. In India in particular, because a lot of manpower is used for construction, unlike in the West where there's a lot of mechanization. To my mind, what I see sitting today is not only offshoring, which is expected to double over the next 5 years. We have almost $200 billion of outsourcing, and we were growing at a single-digit rate. But with world digitizing so quickly, I see this industry going at a double-digit rate to 400 billion over the next 5 to 6 years. So there's a huge employment opportunity coming from there. Number two, I do see manufacturing becoming significant in India for the first time. From where I sit in the group itself, I am seeing significant shift of supply chains. A lot of ecosystems are looking at alternatives to rent places from where they are manufacturing. And I see a potential for $1 trillion manufacturing industry coming out to India over the next 7 to 8 years. That's number two. Number three, as I mentioned, digital as a means. In India is a huge consuming class. We are 1.3, 1.4 billion people with $2,000 per capita income today. If we are to grow at 6 or 7% plus CAGR over the next 10 or 15 years, this per capita income is going to go to $4,500 to $5,000, and which is where actually the hockey stick starts taking place. So to my mind, I don't think we can produce that many professionals, whether it's doctors or teachers or any kind of a profession we look at. What we need to do is to augment digital capabilities to build skill sets which can augment that capacity. Along with professional doctor, for every doctor, we need 10 more guys who can support that doctor in helping actually servicing the healthcare needs for the country. Same is true for education. Same would be true for many other services. And on top of that, what is important is in India, every country across the world actually survives on their small and medium scale enterprises. And we as a country have a very, very large unorganized sector, which actually provides huge amount of employment. So what we need to do is to have a multi-pronged strategy, which focuses not only just on services and manufacturing, but leveraging the Indian domestic consumption story to provide employment opportunities across the width of sectors and industries. And I'm quite confident, I think, with the foundation that we have laid, the digital foundation, we are in the right journey. What we need to do is to have this transition without a social chaos, because we are a very young nation. And what we need to do is to take care of the aspiration of the people, along with growth that is coming our way. So that is the biggest challenge that we have. And then we have basically on top of that, we got to deal with the current crisis, which is a more of a short-term issue, but I see that exploding currently in current forms. So I do hope over next 2 or 3 months, we can get over this, and over 6 to 9 months get some stability to get back to focusing on taking care of growth, which is extremely important to take to for the overall perspective for India.
Thank you, Mr. Agarwal. 2 specific questions from the audience coming in with regard to India's transition, move from an agrarian-based society to a service-led economy. The question is with regard to the decentralization of the financial services space, and do you see the emergence of the cryptocurrency in India? It's the global trend happening around the planet, specifically in the US and in China. And building on that, the proliferation of digital technology within the hotel and services space.
I'll take both of them one by one. The second one is easier one. Let me take that first. In terms of digitization of tourism, travel, as well as the hotel space, what we see today is almost everything shifting towards the digital economy. So today, a large part of the booking and access is provided by digital platforms. There are several that exist in the country. It's not just only booking.com, there's Make My Trip, there's Clear Trip, there are several platforms which are providing that integrated end-to-end services catering to the need of tourism. There's one aspect of it. And the second aspect, as far as cryptocurrency is concerned, I think we are a way off. India as a country will definitely use blockchain as a technology, but cryptocurrency is something which, to my mind, is still a way off. Probably at some point of time, we may introduce our own digital currency. I think that China is experimenting with it. We got to wait and see how that experiment moves. But what I find is in India, we are moving to digital economy very, very quickly. And I gave example of payments. From nowhere in 3 or 4 years, we today have almost 2 billion transactions getting processed through digital means. And unlike in the West, where actually the most of the e-commerce and digital economy has been built around either social networks or advertising platforms, in India, I see a digital economy actually building on transacting platforms. What I mean by that is basically the amount of transactions that are happening in India digitally, it's growing by leaps and bounds exponentially. And the amount of information which is available, India as a country 10 years back used to have Aadhaar, was what Professor Dutta mentioned, but to give you some statistics, way back in 2008, 1 in 25 people in India had an entity associated with it. Today, we have almost more than 80% of the people who have an Aadhaar card, which is an entity card, which provides identity to individuals. And that is what, to my mind, is actually going a long way in terms of providing overall financial inclusion back into the economy. And the financial services sector actually is very much riding on this stack, digital stack, which has been built by the government. It has ensured that it's a level playing field, and we are providing low-cost solution and financial inclusion to everyone in the country. So whether it's education through e-Shiksha Abhiyan, which has been launched by our Prime Minister, or basically if you look at the e-healthcare platform Ayushman Bharat, which has been launched, there are several such schemes which are getting launched on back of these large platforms which have been built and which are actually leading to significant amount of innovation being built on top of some of these infrastructure layers. And APIs which are open to everyone.
Maybe I'll just add a couple of words to what Saurabh said. If you look at the R&D investments globally, about 75% of global R&D investment happens in essentially 4 industries: automobiles, pharmaceuticals, telecoms, and information technology. And so, even though we see, a lot of turmoil in the hospitality sector because of the pandemic, what is becoming increasingly clear is that the companies that will come out successful out of the pandemic in this sector will be the ones that will use technology more creatively, more innovatively, because the industry is going to change. And so I think if the tourism sector, hospitality sector is to thrive in India going forward, part of it has to do with foreign tourists, which is a low number in India, but has to increase. But part of it also has to do with domestic tourism, and domestic tourism of various kinds. And I think that's where people will have to creatively apply digital technologies to be able to really innovate and create new solutions out there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. As a growing leader, Arushi and a couple of student body have questions again with regard to potentially 3 key priorities or takeaways with regard to this whole digital proliferation, digital transformation, and how India can actually grab on to these transformations happening. Arushi?
Thank you. I think just in terms of, trying to understand where we as the next generation can perhaps take things forward, because as we were just talking about, the amount of change that we have seen in the last 6 to 7 years. I was in India and I'd just moved from a small town to a big city. So I'd seen that transformation happen in both ecosystems. I think just trying to understand a little more that at some point of time, we are also afraid of reaching that glass ceiling, that where does innovation go from here? Yes, we have the cheapest data rates. Yes, we have, mobile internet reaching out to the remotest parts of the country. How and in what sense can we take that forward is perhaps our, understanding and our big question for sitting here and taking the baton forward from where perhaps Mr. Agarwal or Professor Datta is leaving it at. So, just in terms of, I would like to even ask Mr. Agarwal and Professor Datta that where do you think is the most lucrative opportunity for us to, perhaps hold the hand, take the baton and take it forward?
Arushi, actually, I'm envy of your generation. You guys are, people may talk about pandemic, people may talk about how do we find jobs today. But the fact is basically anywhere you look, there are opportunities which are there everywhere. And specifically in India, when the whole country is digitizing, I think we are a country historically which was pretty much owned by few people along with state-owned enterprises. And what we are going through is a transformation of that. We effectively are becoming a country which was absolutely controlled through license Raj to today an economy where everything is becoming open, transparent. There's an ease of doing business and you don't need to run around anymore. Every government service is provided through digital platform. So what we have in the country today and what I find exciting in the group itself, the amount of opportunities that we have in front of us are enormous. And for people like you, choosing from agriculture, where we have practically nothing today, we are still basically tilling small farms, actually. So the whole opportunity of setting up a logistics chains from farm to fork and all this stuff, and going to each and every aspect of how do we do business and how do we conduct our daily lives. I think there are opportunities everywhere. Whether it's healthcare or it's education or it is consumer services or it is products, what we find is there's a huge transformation happening in everything we do. The way we live, the way we consume stuff, what we see, how we entertain ourselves. I think it's a question of choosing the area that you love, what you enjoy doing, and really focusing on that. And I'm sure each of you will find very, very interesting opportunities that you can be very proud of over a period of time. What is required is hard work and persistence. And I'm sure all of you really have that since you have reached a place like Cornell, which by itself is a testament to the fact that you guys have worked hard and are persevering.
So I second everything that Saurabh said, and maybe I just have a couple of more perspectives to add to that. So first of all, you have to realize you are enormously privileged to have had the education, to have had the background and training in India, to be studying at Cornell. And with that privilege comes also responsibility. When I say responsibility, what I mean is that it doesn't matter what you do, which company you join, startup, big company, doesn't matter what you do, you will do well. That I'm pretty sure. Okay, all of you will do well in one way or the other. And as you do well in your careers, it's very important for you to realize and be aware that you will be put in positions where you are responsible for large teams, maybe hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people. And not just the direct employees, but also their families. So if you add the families and everyone else, there are a lot of people dependent on your decisions. And so when you take decisions, be mindful of the impact of your decisions on their lives. This is a very human issue. And I think it's very important that you have to do your best possible to make sure you help improve the lives of people, okay, at least directly who are related to you. More generally, of course, having an impact on the world is something which you should aim for. And I think in your generation, people are much more aware of it than probably in my generation we were. The other thing I would say is that, there is a specific angle to the US angle, so US-India axis, which is very important. I do think given the changing nature of global geopolitics, the US-India axis is going to become even more important going forward. And, you have this connection. You have Indian origins, you have US, also connections, and use that. There's a lot of good things coming out of the US, a lot of great strength of the diaspora, a lot of talent, a lot of technology, a lot of universities out here like Cornell and others, and use it to apply and bring good things to India. And what you'll discover also is there are things in India that can be brought back to the US. So I think looking at that unique US-India axis and how you can leverage that, I think is an important element that you should try and leverage as you go forward and build your careers.
And I believe technology is already playing a huge part in this. I really, really thank Professor Datta, Mr. Agarwal for your words of wisdom, for your words of encouragement. Really, really appreciate a strong panel discussion. And of course, Mrs. Kamanini's words of wisdom as well. Unfortunately, she had to jump off. And last but not the least, would like to thank the engaging audience as well for posing pertinent questions in this very, very broad but deep topic of India's digital journey. With that, I would like to pass the floor to Dr. Casanova to give her final words and to wrap the session.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Gaurav. Thank you for all the organizers, Arushi, Vineet, the next generation. As you have just heard, the future is bright by your responsibilities as well. The Indian diaspora is doing a lot for India, has to do even more for India's future growth, and that will be also an opportunity for growth and for improving the country. Also, I wanted to thank the eCornell team, Nicholas Phillips, but also Owen, Kylin, Chris. It's a pleasure working with you, the audience, and last but not least, the EMI team, who have done a lot of work in the background. So thank you very much. Mumuksha, Daniel, Vinita, Britika, Mihika, all of you, great work. And I would just say that we wish that India, with the tremendous talent, effort of everybody, gets out of this difficult situation with COVID. And after that, definitely India is in a very sweet moment great brand, great technology, great basis for growth in the next years. The world needs India and needs to have India as a partner and as a leader, as it is already the 5th biggest economy in the world, and has to have this role in the global scene. So thank you all. Looking forward to the next webinar, May 20th, 8 a.m. on China this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Loris. Thank you, everyone.